Year for year, the sea level here has been rising, as locals can see with their own eyes. A growing number of them are having to leave their homes along the beach. The older generation still remembers what it used to look like here.
Half the village used to be here. There were even houses on this very spot before it was all flooded. There are probably remains of houses on the seabed over there.
The village in South Mauritania is bordered by a river on one side and the ocean on the other. There's very little infrastructure. But where are locals supposed to move to? Zen El Abidine works in the nearby Diawling National Park. He confirms the gravity of the situation.
I spoke to an old man who told me that in the 1980s, the ocean was 2 kilometers further back. Now look at the damage that the sea has done. The government is trying to ensure that people are relocated to a safer area. But the older generation refuses and says, this is where our ancestors lived. We're not going anywhere.
Living from farming alone is increasingly difficult. Land is in short supply due to the ground becoming oversalted. With their livelihoods destroyed, people are having to move inland. But the Diawling National Park, 12 kilometers away, provides alternative sources of income. A few years ago, it was home to far fewer animals. Today, it's a breeding ground for over 300 species of birds, including flamingos. Crocodiles live here too. The warthog population is flourishing because the animals are not hunted here. There's both freshwater and saltwater in the Senegal River Delta. Nature conservation makes sense here. Protecting the ecosystem also creates jobs.
The goal of the park is to restore the ecosystem and fight poverty. Why fight poverty in this region? Because the local population does traditional work. They harvest whatever nature provides. The local economy is based on fishing and farming. If there's no more water, there will be nothing left here.
Locally caught tilapia is hung out to dry in the open air. Many villages have no electricity, let alone refrigerators. Fishermen sell their fish across the country and even in neighboring Senegal.
In the past, people lived here from farming too. But really, fishing makes most sense. We can make a living from fishing all year round. We benefit from the loch and the basin. There are lots of fish here.
The abundance of fish is a recent development. 30 years ago, the region was left ravaged by this dam, built in the 1980s to supply Mauritania, Senegal, Gambia, and Mali with fresh water. It devastated the natural environment.
The construction of the dam completely destabilized the ecosystem. It was destroyed. The natural balance was destroyed, the balance between salt water and fresh water. And that wasn't all. The fresh water was blocked and couldn't reach the national park.
Years later, the problem was addressed with the construction of these locks, built with the help of the German KfW Development Bank and the German Development Agency, GIZ.
What it does is imitate ebb and flow. Saltwater and freshwater are combined here, so it's a perfect habitat for fish to spawn in. It's a protected area because these are 3 flood basins. So it's a perfect spot for resting and breeding, not only for fish, but also for birds.
The park authority has demarcated fishing zones and makes sure the fishermen respect spawning seasons, The fresh water in the basin has helped revive the local fauna, too. Lotuses have begun thriving again. Local women spend 2 to 3 hours a day in the water collecting seeds from the lotus stalks. Then they sort them, shell and dry them, and over a period of several weeks, turn them into couscous.
After the dam was built until last year, we couldn't harvest anything. But now nature has started to recover. The lotuses have returned and we can collect their seeds again.
They harvested some 600 kilos last year, enough to feed their families for months and sell the excess. Another successful venture made possible by the park. Local craft traditions have also made a comeback. These women make jewelry they're planning to sell. The raw materials come from the national park.
These are tiny beads that they make from tree resin. And we help them to extract the resin without destroying the trees.
Back in the Delta, biologist Zen El Abidine is out on the water almost every day, taking a look at the nesting sites.
I love these birds. They're my favorite animals. They're beautiful, and they're also proof that the environment is in good shape. If they're here, then we know there's no environmental damage. And they don't make anything dirty. I love them.
The Diawling National Park is home to the greatest concentration of birds in West Africa. And in addition to rescuing animal habitats in the region, the conservation zone has also helped to secure human livelihoods.